In the world of mixed martial arts, few names shine as brightly as Jon Jones, a prodigy, a champion, a legend in the making. But behind the glory and the accolades lies a darker tale, one of controversy, denial, and the specter of performance-enhancing drugs. Jon Jones burst onto the UFC scene in 2008, a 21-year-old phenom with skills beyond his years. His innovative techniques, unmatched athleticism, and dominant performances quickly earned him the light heavyweight title and the moniker of the greatest of all time. By 2011, Jones had become the youngest champion in UFC history. His reign seemed unstoppable, his talent undeniable. But as his star rose, so did the whispers of suspicion. Jones's first brush with controversy came in 2015 when he tested positive for cocaine metabolites. While not a performance-enhancing substance, it was the first crack in the armor of the seemingly invincible champion. But it was in July 2016, just days before UFC 200, when news broke that would shake the MMA world to its core. Jon Jones had tested positive for banned substances.
If you go back historically to the beginning, like obviously the guy is pretty loose on what he's willing to do in terms of, if you go back to his first positive test results, I believe he tested positive for clomiphene and letrozole way back in like 2016 or something.
These substances, an anti-estrogen and an aromatase inhibitor, are often used to counteract the side effects of steroid use. But Jones had an explanation that would soon become infamous.
I have been in the UFC for many years, and I've taken sex pills several times throughout my adult life. Highly recommend it, guys. Fucking great. Anyways,
Yes, you heard that right. Jon Jones blamed his positive test on a contaminated dick pill. This explanation, while unique, did little to quell the growing suspicions. Despite a one-year suspension, Jones returned to the octagon in 2017, reclaiming his title in a fight against Daniel Cormier. But the controversy was far from over. Just weeks after his triumphant return, Jones failed another drug test, this time for turinabol, an anabolic steroid. The result? A stripped title and a tarnished legacy.
I had something silly in there. In fact, I had an estrogen block. I had something silly in there, and everybody forgave. I was going to be suspended, but Fox, I was fine. Everybody looked at, okay, we changed the rules in the test, and everything was.
But forgiveness wasn't so easy to come by for Jones. The MMA community was divided, with many questioning the legitimacy of his entire career. The controversy deepened with discussions of pulsing, the idea that trace amounts of substances could remain detectable in the body long after use.
So the idea behind the pulsing is these metabolites that linger, they can store themselves in like fat tissue essentially, and they can like liberate themselves over time sporadically.
This explanation, however, left many skeptics unconvinced. The science behind pulsing became a hotly debated topic in the MMA world. Throughout the ordeal, Jones maintained his innocence, but his reputation had taken a severe hit. His testosterone levels during fights became a point of scrutiny.
And on paper, when you look at his testosterone levels and his ratios of testosterone to epitestosterone, like when he fought DC, they were so out of whack that it would not be explainable, in my opinion, by anything other than some sort of suppression of your system via the usage of something.
As if the failed tests weren't enough, stories began to circulate about Jones's attempts to avoid testing altogether.
So USADA rolls in to Jackson's gym to do a test on Jon Jones, and there was only some coaches in there, and there was like 5 people there at the time. So he can see them coming. Where they parked, he can see them coming. So they don't know what to do with him. They hide him underneath the cage. Jon Jones hides under the cage.
This alleged incident, where Jones supposedly hid under a cage to avoid testers, became part of the lore surrounding his controversies.
So instead of leaving like they thought they would do, they take a seat. Well, there's like 8 hours left in the business day. They don't ever leave. However long was 6 or 8 hour time frame, John's under the cage the entire time. So people are coming and going. The whole thing is finally they shut the lights off and go to lock the doors. Now Jon can come out. Well, USADA found out about that. And they didn't do this. They wanted to get a warrant and go under that ring under the theory that at some point in that 6 to 8 hour span, he would have had to pee. Well, they wanted to go under forensically and collect that urine. That's how upset they were that they had been had.
The controversies surrounding Jones seemed never-ending. Each time he returned to the octagon, questions about his legitimacy followed. Despite the cloud of suspicion, Jones continued to compete and win. But the asterisk next to his name remained.
And then just to close this chapter with Daniel Cormier, I don't even know why it was such a big thing in the first place. You know, I beat him fair and square the first time and off of steroids, and I beat him the second time off of steroids. So, you know, it's...
In an ironic twist, Jones himself seemed to inadvertently admit to steroid use in an interview, further complicating his claims of innocence. The Jon Jones saga raises difficult questions about the nature of greatness, the pressures of professional sports, and the complex relationship between athletes and performance-enhancing substances.
So I do think designer drugs exist. I don't necessarily know that they're being leveraged highly in the designer steroid family, because you could hypothetically probably be able to determine this compound derived from testosterone was manipulated and, you know, see something iffy and, you know, dig into it and perhaps find out pretty soon what it is and retroactively, you know, penalize that guy. But I do think there are novel agents being developed from the growth hormone side of things, EPO side of things.
As testing methods improve, so too do the methods to circumvent them. The cat-and-mouse game between athletes and anti-doping agencies continues. Despite the controversies, Jones still has his supporters. Many argue that his skills in the octagon speak for themselves, regardless of what may or may not have been in his system. Critics, however, maintain that any use of performance-enhancing drugs invalidates his achievements. They argue that the sport's integrity is at stake. As we look back on Jon Jones's career, we're left with a complex legacy, a fighter of undeniable talent whose achievements will forever be questioned, a cautionary tale of the heights one can reach and the depths one can fall when pushing beyond the limits, both in and out of the octagon. The Jon Jones story is far from over. As he continues to compete, the debate rages on. Is he the greatest of all time or the sport's greatest cautionary tale? In the court of public opinion, the jury is still out.